Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Security Talkdown. And am I the only one that felt good that football is finally back in the air? I mean, I was so excited this weekend, happy enjoying only those 5 games. And the best part about it is we're about to dive into one of the best weeks of college football this year in momentarily. I'm super happy with the week zero. I think a lot of it went, but before we do dive into week zero, who do you guys think overachieved? Who do you guys think underachieved? Who did exactly what you thought they would do? And so much more. I mean, you always have those questions at the end of it, and I'm going to go over those today. And I'd also like to hear your guys' opinions too, but I'll definitely be letting you guys know mine today. We're briefly going to go over week zero, but then we're going to dive hard into week one, which I'm super excited about. Starting off week zero, it was a great overall week. I mean, there's only 5 games, but had everything you wanted in football with some close games, some teams that dominate, and potential almost upsets. Diving into the first game, it was the game of the week. It was Iowa State, Kansas State. Obviously, Iowa State was victorious 24-21. I did pick Iowa State outright at plus 130, and that game pretty much went just how I expected. That game was not a security lock, so it's not on my record, but it went exactly how I expected. A sloppy first half because teams were getting warmed up and getting ready. And then in the second half, a team was going to take over, and that's what Iowa State did. I told you guys in my podcast last Wednesday that I thought this game would come down to the fourth quarter in conditioning because Iowa State had the better front five, 2 running backs that could run the ball well, and they tire them out, wear them down, and that's what they did. Carson Hansen had a crazy fourth quarter. He rushed for like 71 yards out of his 83 in the fourth quarter alone. Had a great game. And also, what really came down to this game was fourth down conversions. Iowa State went 3 for 3, and Kansas State went 1 for 4. That was the story of the game right there. If you want to keep drives alive, you have to convert on fourth downs. And Kansas State made them matter. I mean, their 4th and 3 to ice the game alone won them the game. So I think that was the key of the game that showed him everything. Avery Johnson struggled in the beginning, a little worrying. Rico Beck was well, but the weather was hard. I'll be interested to see these teams coming up. But Iowa State, great job to them. Huge ranked win. I see all these people are writing off Kansas State saying that their season's already done and all this and that. The fights over in Ireland. I'll tell you this right now. Kansas State still controls their own destiny. They just have to win. That's all you have to do. I mean, the Big 12 is so crazy at times. Just do your job. You control your destiny. I promise you, this team still has everything in front of you. I promise. It doesn't help losing Iowa State. I'll be completely upfront and honest, but they still control their whole destiny. So don't let that get out the way. Kansas State is still a great team. Moving on to one of the most disappointing and eye-opening games of the week, and I think everyone on this podcast would agree with me. UNLV 38, Idaho State 31. Now, this game had me all over the place, I'll be honest. Usually week zero and week one games I take with a grain of salt. I say, okay, just week one jitters. A lot of stuff can happen, but with UNLV, I have some mixed feelings. I mean, they let up 555, yes, 555 yards of offense in a game. That's never good at all, but let alone letting it up to an FCS school, that, that scares me a lot. I mean, you're letting up 555 yards. The blown coverages were all over the field all game. There was times they're running halfback draws and the guy's untouched 25 yards down the field. I mean, this team honestly was owning them all game. Just UNLV just happened to make more big splash plays. I mean, in all honesty, I think UNLV was not the better team this game, and the only reason they won this game was on the back of Jaden Thomas putting up a campaign game for already Mountain West Player of the Year. I mean, he had 2 broken plays alone that just bouncing on 5 guys and going 50 yards and then 80 yards. I mean, it was just such a performance by him. And obviously, I think this game showed that I think Calandria should be their starting quarterback going forward instead of Alex Orji. I feel the team gelled better with him when he was in first drives. And I feel like when Orji's in, it gives the offense an identity that's very obvious that he wants to run the ball. And I don't really think UNLV wants to do that. But they need to address a lot on defense. I mean, it was eye opening. It was borderline pathetic, if I'm being honest. But I hope they make some changes. But we'll see week two. But let's bash UNLV. Let's give the props of Utah State. I mean, they had a beautiful game plan. They executed it perfectly. They took advantage of all their flaws. UNLV kept running like a 4-1-6 for some reason, and they were like 5-man box against a 5-man box. Our guys are better than yours. We're just going to run it. And they did that the whole game, and they were busting up 20-yard runs after 20-yard runs. And props to them. Honestly, this was their game to lose, and they found a way to lose it with some late turnovers. And obviously, the security lock pick on this was minus 23.5 UNLV. That was a beyond miss, which I'm not honestly too upset about because the way Idaho State played, they deserved to win this game. I honestly was hoping they won the game. And overall, Utah State, I feel, has some work to do, but obviously in college football, the biggest jump is between your week 1 game and your week 2 game. And luckily for them, they do play Sam Houston, who also had a week 0 game, so I expect to see 2 big jumps out of both of these teams. But overall, disappointing game, but we're going to move forward. Moving into one of the better games I thought this weekend was Kansas versus Fresno State. Kansas State, not Kansas State. Kansas versus Fresno State. And Kansas came out victorious 31-7. This was a security lock at minus 13.5, and they beyond covered that. This was one of the most confident lines I had through the whole week, if I'm being honest. I mean, they have a guy by the name of Jalen Daniels, but you will now hopefully learn that name, so I was trying to make sure you guys knew that name going into the weekend. He had a game. I mean, 18 of 20 throwing, 176 yards, 3 touchdowns, along with 47 yards on the ground. The guy took over the game basically whenever he wanted to. Super smart with the ball, can make a lot of plays on his legs. Been a fan of this guy since Lance Leipold got there and whenever Andy Kolenecki was running this system with him. I feel like at times he does try to act like Superman and thinks he can do all this, and that's always been the bash on him because then he ends up getting himself injured trying to do too much. He has to understand that you can't make good out of everything. Sometimes you will lose some plays, and I feel like if he can learn that, he will be one of the better quarterbacks in the Big 12 and will make Kansas a threat this year. Moving on to Fresno State, I feel like there actually is some positive coming out of this game. Even though they did lose by 24 points and dot cover a spread and at times looked very sloppy, in the second half after they settled in, they actually were competing in the game. I mean, they were running their offense well. Their defense was stopping a very high-powered Kansas offense. I do know Jalen Daniels did get taken out in the fourth quarter, but still, they settled in and they actually did decently well. And, I mean, Kansas' system under DK McDonald, the defensive coordinator, he sends a lot of pressure and a lot of weird looks. So I feel like they did a great job adjusting that in the second half, which shows that new coaching staff is going to do them well there because their second half adjustments were on par and did a great job. And I feel as if Fresno State still has a chance to do well in the Mountain West, especially after UNLV's shaky performance. And I do think E.J. Warner looked great at times with some bright spots, showing how he can extend plays. And I think that's a key thing in college football is extending plays and getting it to your playmakers. So I think if you're a Fresno State fan out there, I think this game showed a little bit of good to take out of a bad situation, and I still think this team is going to have a great season. Moving in to the Sam Houston Western Kentucky game. Western Kentucky did come out victorious, 41-24 over Sam Houston, and they did cover the 9.5 spread I did give you guys, but it was not a security lock. This game was about as Conference USA as it could go. The better team hops out to a first half lead, finds a way to blow it in the third quarter by some turnovers, acting sloppy, to then come back after that third quarter and absolutely annihilate this team to make the game not even look close. Just a casual Conference USA game. Western Kentucky was a better team on the field all night, and it wasn't even close. They're a very strong Conference USA team. They're going to make a run to win this division. I think they had the best quarterback in the Conference USA, and Maverick McGlow. He had a great opening performance, throwing for 400 yards. I think he had 400 yards and 3 touchdowns. And he just showed that he wants to win. For Sam Houston, they're outmatched, but it's fun to know you're outmatched. But they still have a lot of talented players on that team, but they really need to rely on some of their guys like Hunter Watson, their quarterback, who did it on his legs and arm. So I feel if they can get that together, bounce back. This UNLV team, there's a lot of question marks. Sam Houston, a lot of question marks. I think this would be a great game to watch if you have the time, but there'll be so many other games on during those times that we'll talk about in a little bit week 1 that you might not get to keep up with it as much. Moving into one of the other disappointing games of the weekend, in my opinion, is Hawaii versus Stanford, and Hawaii is victorious at 23-20 over a game-winning field goal against Stanford in the final seconds. This was a security lock of Stanford money line, and it did indeed miss, so I am now 1-1 on the season to start. Not what I wanted, but when I go over this game, I'm okay still with my pick. I don't think I was in the wrong whatsoever. For this game, I felt Hawaii wanted it more, I will be honest. And Hawaii's freshman quarterback definitely impressed me with the way he runs that run and gun, run and veer system with a lot of quick throws, high accuracy, just dink and dime your way down the field. I think he did a great job in throwing the ball into money. He did a great job. For Stanford, I feel like this game was a major letdown. Just coming off a 9-minute drive, to take the lead in the fourth quarter. Your first rushing touchdown since like September 23rd of 2023. They had a whole year gap where they didn't score a rushing touchdown with a running back. Like that's just, especially for all you like diehard fans like college football, like knowing me, Stanford's identity is running the ball, and they didn't score a running back running touchdown in a whole year. So that's why Andrew Luck is back as the GM. Frank Wright is taking over as head coach. They have the staff there. They just don't have the players right now. But anyways, they take the lead in the fourth quarter. They get a 3-and-out, get the ball back. They find a way to throw an interception on Hawaii's 30 with 6 minutes left, and Hawaii ultimately takes advantage of that. Goes right down the field, kicks a field goal to tie it. For some reason, Stanford ironically thinks they can throw the ball, goes immediately 3-and-out, not burning any timeouts. And obviously, Hawaii's think and dime system is just going to take them down the field in 2 minutes, kick a chip shot field goal. I don't understand Stanford's view here. I stick to your run game. The running back Ford, Michael Ford's having a great game, and they were just starting to like gap them. I mean, in the fourth quarter, you could tell Stanford's offensive line was getting in a groove, and they were just chunking. They were doing great things, and Stanford's quarterback, I think Elijah Brown should be in, the modern-day quarterback of 2024. Big commit there. I do not know why he's in the game, if I'm being honest. But I'm very disappointed in Stanford in that game, and I think it's not going to get any brighter for Stanford. But for Hawaii, the only questions I do have is, why would you keep your freshman quarterback in the whole game when he could barely even stand? He was limping around everywhere, could barely even throw the ball, put weight on him, most likely sprained meniscus, or could even be worse, sprained ACL. He was really banged up and could barely even move in the pocket at all. It's week 0. I understand it's a big game, but it's week 0. It's an out-of-conference game. I understand beating a Power 4 team is really big for a program, but there's another 14 weeks in front of you, and this is your freshman quarterback that you've been waiting to get all your life. Like, he's a talented player, and you're just, like, I don't know. I feel like in a coaching decision, you need to sometimes make the hard decisions, even if you're a hard competitor like he was. But hopefully this doesn't affect him. They move along, and then I look like a terrible guy for trying to bash a coach for letting a guy play. But at the end of the day, like, it's you have 14 weeks, and if this is your guy, you want him to be healthy, especially going against a game that, like, no offense, like, it matters in your eyes, but it doesn't matter down the stretch. So I think this game was very, very great for Hawaii. Just hope they got out injury-free and their quarterback can be great, and I think he can give Arizona a run this weekend. Hawaii does play Arizona. I think they can give them a run. And for Stanford, I don't know where we go from here, but we'll do some research on that and get it right. But for now, Stanford, you are not looking that great. Excuse me. But after all those games, I want to let you guys know that not every week we'll be reviewing every game, obviously. Simple as that. I mean, obviously, there's 5 games this week. So obviously, I want to give you guys a little feel of how I do it and let you guys pick my brain a little bit. If you guys ever do want me to go over some games that might not be in the script, just send me a text, DM, anything. I will go over games also for you guys. If you guys have time to like watch the game or you want to know something about a game, I'll run it down for you guys too. I have no problem doing that. And same thing with week 1, for instance. If you have a favorite team out there, like let's say you're an Oklahoma State fan, they're playing UT Martin this week. Like, I will go over a small game like that. I really will. And so just let me know that too. But before we do hop into the week 1 games, obviously, I want to talk about my plan. My plan here is over the next couple days, we're going to be talking about college football. I mean, obviously, week 1 is very unusual. You have football from Thursday to Monday, which is amazing. Personally, I love it. So we're going to break down like the days instead of really giving you like games. Like, totally. I still have my games of the week, but they're all 2 Saturday and Sunday, which you guys probably obviously know them. But it will be different. But overall, we'll get into real schedule next week and going over it. But overall, I will be going over a lot of the games. There's many game spreads out there, too, that are going to be a problem, and we're still going to talk about them. But overall, I will give you guys some of my underdog of the week. I will also give you guys my game of the week, and obviously, I will give you guys an undercover, a game to watch, a sleeper game every day. So let's hop into week 1, what we finally been waiting for, and let's start with the Thursday slate. A Thursday slate that has some highlights of some marquee matchups, but a lot of like action too. You have a little bit of this, a little bit of that. That's what I love about Thursday. We're going to hop into one of probably the more important games Thursday, in my opinion, which is Boise State versus USF. Boise State is a -5.5 favorite right now in UCF. Now, this game, I have some alarm bells. This game is playing UCF, so we need to take into account Florida humidity is no joke. I do understand that up in Idaho, they do get some humidity. I know it sounds crazy, it's Midwest and stuff. They do get some summer heat. They do get some humidity. I mean, they have it, but nothing like Florida. There's some things I've read that it could be anywhere to like 105 to 113 feel like during that game for a team that it's not really used to the heat, and it's week one, so you're already not in shape, condition. Cramping is going to be a major problem in this game. I can already see it now. But personally, I think Boise does return a lot of talent here. I mean, obviously, they lost their biggest star in Ashton Genty, which is never easy to replace, but they do have a running back behind them that is talented that's been waiting his turn since Genty's been there. I do see better talent through Boise. It's just the fact that they can stay healthy and stay in the game because you have to be in the game in order to make an impact. And if they're just falling like flies, UCF's slowly just going to wear them down and take this game. But overall, I do have a slight edge to Boise. If I were to bet this game, I am staying away from this game because I think there's too many risks in this game. But I would give the slight edge to Boise. But my pick would be alt line up to -6.5 in taking them. But it is not a security lock whatsoever. But I am excited to see this game. And a fun little stat for you guys is Boise State last week with Genty, they were the 17th best rushing attack in the country, while USF was 144th, I believe, or 143 in rushing defense. So I think that'll be the key to the game. They still return a lot of their offense on the line on Boise. If they're smart, they'll slow down this game, not tempo, and I think they'll take it home. Moving into the other game, I want to talk about Thursday night, which probably comes no shocker, is Nebraska versus Cincy. At Cincy, Nebraska is -6.5 here, and Cincy's plus 215 as an underdog. I expect this game to be dominated by Nebraska if I'm just being upfront and honest. Both sides of the ball. Raiola has a very high ceiling this year. I expect him to have a pretty big season. We have weapons like Dane Key and Emmett Johnson, both really good running back, really good wide receiver in the Big Ten. And I feel like Nebraska's secondary will lock down these Cincinnati wide receivers that really don't have much names to them yet, but they can still make a name for themselves. Sorsby will have a long day dealing with Nebraska's defensive line that it doesn't have a stud, but they're just going to be very consistent. It's always a Nebraska team. They're very consistent. But since he does have one of the most talented defensive tackles in the country in Corlone, so I could see he's going to have an impact. He's going to make his plays, but at the same time, Matt Rule will figure things out. Very smart coach. He'll bring it home in a hard-fought spread covering win. Yes, that leads me into my pick. I am going Nebraska -6.5, and this is a security lock. This is one of my 3 security lock picks of the week. Nebraska -6.5, and I myself am not too high on Nebraska yet, but there is some other professionals out there, podcasters, guys that cover the sport, that have Nebraska making the playoff and very high, going 10-2 and stuff. I myself am not there yet, but I do feel like this team has the potential to get there. Other game lines, since I can't go over every game, I should go over this real quick. I will be giving you guys also game lines. I do feel confident in it, but I'll let you know if they are a security lock, or I'll just tell you the recommended lines. So all 3 of these lines I'm about to go over right here will be recommended lines. Those game lines are for Thursday, and I have Rutgers alt line down to 13.5 against Ohio. Wyoming alt line down to 6.5, -6.5 against Akron. And Minnesota alt line down to -13.5 against Buffalo. Now, if you guys notice something right there, they're all alt lines, they're all favorites, and they're all against MAC schools, for you guys that don't know the MAC. The reason is the MAC is historically terrible covering spreads against Power 4 opponents or any Group of 5 other than themselves. But the Group of 5 ones, they've done better, but I did look at a stat over the last 2 years. Any MAC school in the last 2 years, they're 3-33, I believe, in covering spreads against Power 4 opponents in the last 3 years, not 2 years, 3 years. 3-33 covering spreads. So I do think they will win this. And I usually hate betting against MACs and schools because it's a fun place to go, but those are ones I'd look into. MAC usually just tends not to do well covering spreads, especially early in the year and against big opponents. Slept on game Thursday. I have this game for a lot of you guys out there who've been watching college football for a long time. This should come as no shocker, but for you guys that are just starting to get into it or just watch it for fun but want to learn more, keep an eye on this one. NC State, Eastern Carolina. NC State is -13.5 favorite, and East Carolina is +390 to win. The reason I picked this game could be a sneakily game of the night is because East Carolina has a decent team this year and does a great job playing NC State every time they play. If you guys don't know, this used to be one of the most heated rivalries back in the day in North Carolina. ECU and NC State hate each other. It's a heated rivalry that's finally getting recovered. and I think both of these teams are going to wear that rivalry hard in this game. Uh, it's basically like a situation of the fact that for you guys who didn't watch college football last year, it's a repeat of Ohio State and Texas, excuse me. These two teams ended the season playing each other last year in a bowl game, and I believe Navy Stadium in one of the military bowl. Sorry, uh, they actually Eastern Carolina won this game and actually came out with a 26-21 victory over NC State, their rival, with some key facts that in the last 10 too, they're 5-5 against each other. Like this is a rivalry. I know like you look out paper and you don't know much, you're like, oh, power four against a mediocre group of five. No, like these teams have played each other in the past and they always play each other well, and I'm happy to see the rivalry come back. But a big note I did look into is this game is played at NC State. NC State in this rivalry is 16-7 at home, unlike their terrible road record going to East Carolina where they're 3-4. So I still think NC State. I mean, Mike Wright, which was the Vanderbilt transfer that went to Northwestern, that now is at East Carolina. I am a huge fan of Mike Wright. I'm like him. He's a mobile quarterback and do it well. I'm excited to watch him. I really am. But at the end of the day, I feel like the best pick here actually is avoiding spreads in a game like this is usually what I do in rivalry games, and I actually go with unders because you know each other well. And at the end of the day, it's going to be a hard fought game with probably some penalties and going backwards, potentially like some taking forward. But it's rivalry games are usually low scoring in my opinion because you just know each other so well, and it's weeks one. So I'm actually taking the under 61.5 here, but this is not recommended pick. I just had to give you guys one of my pick. It is not a security lock, but if you had to lean away here, I would go minus 61.5 in NC State. Not minus 61, sorry, under 61.5 in NC State and East Carolina. Rolling into Friday. Friday, there's two marquee matchups I think of this day, and I feel like they carry the load of that day, if I'm being honest. Excuse me. The first one we're going to talk about is Georgia Tech and Colorado. Georgia Tech opens up as a 4-point underdog, 4-point favorite, sorry, and Colorado is plus 160 underdog. This is an exciting matchup. Whenever there is a game and it's at Boulder, it's always going to be an exciting matchup. Primetime got Colorado kind of where they want to be, and just basically they're respected now throughout the media, and they're put on the map, and that's all Deion wanted to do for these kids. But during the offseason, if some of you know, Deion Sanders, head coach for Colorado, was fighting cancer. He did beat the battle, so we're thankful for that and happy he's healthy and stuff. But he's such a character for these players, and he means a lot, but that does not take away from Colorado's pretty impressive coaching staff. I mean, if you're going to have Deion Sanders as your head coach, you're going to have a great staff. Connections are everything. And I think Deion back is going to give the team a little morale boost. But still, at the end of the day, him missing a lot of camp and a lot of spring ball and off season, I think we'll have this team behind the ball a little bit. And overall, I do think Colorado is still a great team, but they did announce that they are starting the Liberty transfer, Caden Slater, as their quarterback. And I think this is a great move. I think Juju Lewis, the backup for Colorado, the 5-star, I still think you want to give him a little time to grow, but don't be shocked if this season does go off the rails and he takes over as their guy. But across the board, Colorado, they definitely still want to win this game. I mean, they have a lot of experience on the defensive line, defense in general, if I'm being honest. They have a very talented O-line, which is funny because if you look at Colorado 2 years ago, they gave up the most sacks in FBS, and Shedeur Sanders was running for his life. But they have a very talented O-line, like a very talented O-line. And I think it'll give Georgia Tech problems. But at the end of the day, I still think Georgia Tech will prevail with their talented in Haynes and running back, Eric Rivers at wide receiver, and obviously King at quarterback who can do it both on his legs and arm. For some weaknesses, though, is Georgia Tech's defense. And I could easily see a scenario where Colorado dominates this game up front and they just run all over Georgia Tech, which is one thing I'm scared of for Georgia Tech. But with all that said, I'll mostly stay away from this game just because there's so many what-ifs in this scenario. But if I had to bet this game and I wanted to make like a couple straight bets for Friday or even like a little parlay for Friday, I would lean towards taking Georgia Tech minus 2.5 and starting off the year 1-0 under Key because Key is just a great coach in big games. He's shown it to himself, and he's always been a really great week one coach. I mean, he always has his team ready. Last year, they did upset Florida State, if you want to call it an upset. But so this team knows how to play ball on the first day. So that is my first pick for Friday. we are going, we're going Georgia Tech -2.5. Rolling into the other game of the night, a very highly anticipated match for both these teams. That is Auburn versus Baylor. It is in Waco. Auburn is -2.5, and Baylor is a +115 dog. Both these teams have a lot to prove, and they both expect to have great seasons. Uh, Obviously, Auburn brought in Jackson Darnold, and this will be his first test of the year. They have one of the most talented wide receiver rooms probably in the SEC, I'd say. Uh, One of them, not probably but one of them. They have guys, Singleton, Coleman, probably two top guys in the country at their position. Coleman's due for a breakout year. A lot of people forgot his name, but he is an insane five-star prospect that can just basically do anything he wants to a lot of these guys. The thing that scares me the most is outside of their very talented DNs and corners of Auburn is their defense. Their defense scares me for a team like Baylor that is just going to run and gun on the outside, sling it with a very, very experienced quarterback in Sawyer Robinson. Sawyer Robinson is easily going to try to push to be one of the better quarterbacks this year in the Big 12, and I wouldn't be shocked if this game turns into one of your average Big 12 shootouts, but it's with an SEC team. And I feel like Auburn's wide receivers are better than Baylor's. But Baylor still has very, very talented wide receivers and well. So I think this game is just going to come down to a few key plays. What team has more experience? But if this game turns into a shootout like I think it is, you're obviously going to go with the better experienced quarterback and the guy that you have more trust in. And right now, I have more trust in Sawyer Robinson and Baylor also at home. Baylor is a fan base. When they are good, they show out and they care. And this team has a lot of high hopes this year, and that's why I think this Waco is going to be jumping. And I actually am taking Baylor +115 at home over Auburn. I think Hugh Freeze is going to have a not so good start to the season, which is he really can't afford. But it is not a security lock pick. Let me make that clear. But it is a game that I'll definitely be watching and evaluating. Hopefully, a shootout game. But at the same time, if this game doesn't turn into a shootout, I do think Auburn will dominate. Besides those two games, really, I don't really have a sleeper. It's hard to have a sleeper on the Friday game. I was looking over the slate and just like all these games are on at the same time during these two games. I'm sorry, you're not going to turn these two games off the TV and put on one of these ones unless you're betting it. But besides, there's only what I really watch for is App State and Charlotte. And I would take App State -6.5. I think Charlotte has a lot of talk this year, but another one. This is actually security lock. I'm not telling you really recommend this game, but I think it's a security lock, which I got Wake Forest, Kennesaw State. I personally got Wake Forest at -13.5 when the line was actually at -15.5. And it's moved the whole way up to 17.5. And I think still outlining this line down to -16.5, I actually think is still a great bet. And I actually have that as one of my security locks of the week. Kennesaw State just moved up 2 years ago from FCS to FBS. They're still not a great team. Wake Forest, even though they are one of the less powers of the Power Four, they're still a Power Four team. They still have a lot of talent. Only laying 16.5 points all line down for a team like that. If they can't cover that against a kind of poor FBS team, you can say, if not bottom tier FBS, I'll be very disappointed. And another one to watch for, which this line is shockingly moved, is Army. Army at one point is all the way up to -16.5. Now they've fallen the whole way to -13.5. So Army -13.5, I like too. Obviously, for any of you guys out there that know me well, I was a big rider of the academies last year. The academies did me very well, and I'm obviously going to give them a chance again this year. I mean, Navy 100%, I can already promise you guys, Navy will be talked about a lot. Army, I want to feel them out first and try, but I've always been huge on the academies and will stick to my academies because they just know how to get a job done. Simple as that. And then we move in to finally our loaded slate of Saturday, and this is one of the more excited Saturdays I've had in a long time. Excuse me. Starting off, we're going to go over 2 out of the 3 games of the week. Obviously, if you guys remember games of the week, I break them down depth by depth. I break them down position by position, and I give you guys honest opinions. And obviously, what better game to hop into than a rematch of the Cotton Bowl last year in Texas at Ohio State. Ohio State is -2.5, and Texas is +110. Don't let this deceive you for all you guys out there that really don't know much about betting. Home field usually always gets 3 points. It's how it works in pick'ems. So basically, this game is a pick'em. Just look at it like that. If you want to take the points, take the points. But always look at it like that, that away teams, you're usually always starting off +3 in the betting world. But anyways, this game could easily end up being game of the year, and it's a week 1 game rematch. of the Cotton Bowl. Both teams, they have fireworks all over the place. They have a bunch of players that are just absolute studs, potential top 10 picks, potential All-Americans everywhere. I mean, Ohio State has two of the best players in the country, in my opinion, and Jeremiah Smith and Caleb Downs. They're going to obviously be dominant forces you got to watch for. But I think the cool thing to watch in this game is both teams are starting new quarterbacks. Arch Manning, you could technically say, is not new, but he really is new, getting the new helm to the team. He's finally the guy. And the two games he started last year were against Power 5 opponents that weren't that strong, like ULF. And then obviously, Ohio State's moving on to Julian Sayin after Will Howard has left. And I feel like this game could go 100 different ways. So many moving parts going on, so many what ifs, and that's why I'm going to dive right into the breakdown. So for the breakdown, the way I do it, obviously, is by position. So quarterback, I do give a slight edge to Arch Manning. Running backs, once again, I do give a slight edge to Texas because of their two-headed monster. Wide receivers, obviously, do I need to say anything? Ohio State. Tight end, it's a coin flip in my opinion, but I feel like Ohio State has more depth, so if they want to run two tight end sets, they will be able to do that. So I give the tight end to Ohio State. O-line, slight edge to Texas. D-line, Colin Simmons alone carries this one home for Texas. Crazy freak of an athlete on the D end, and he's going to give some tackles some problems that day. Defensive tackles, I do give to Ohio State. Linebackers is a coin flip once again, but I feel like this does go to Texas, and it's just because of a guy by the name of Anthony Hill Jr., who is one of the better linebackers in the country and runs around like an absolute maniac. Corners, I give a slight edge to Ohio State. I know a couple of you guys will be shocked out there, but that's because they have two solid ones. Texas by far has the best corner in this matchup in Muhammad, but they have probably the best corner, and then after that, they probably have the worst starting corner. And I think two consistent guys, and I just think that's going to be better for Ohio State. And not only that, I think the Ohio State corners are going to have easier matchups than the Texas corners because I think Ohio State's probably going to try to take advantage of that corner number two. And then safeties, obviously, hands down, simply Caleb Downs takes this one home for safeties, but also I'm not taking away anything from Taft. He is a great safety for Texas and would probably win this matchup probably against 97% of other teams, but Caleb Downs is just in a world of his own. Special teams, I give to Texas. And coaching, I give to Texas strictly because of how much moving parts happen in the offseason for Ohio State. New offensive coordinator coming in Brian Hartline. New defense coordinator coming in Patricia. I think it's going to be, they're talented and major name guys. Don't get me wrong there, but just you still have to see how they gel and how they do. And Texas didn't have as many moving parts. Sarkisian's still a great coach, offensive mastermind. I'm excited for that. So with that said, I do have 7-5 in favor of Texas, but it's way closer. It's basically even in my opinion. Still, I know technically it's 7-5, but there's just so many little wins that it just slowly catches up. But with all that said, I do feel like this is a coin flip game in general. I feel like whatever team starts out the hottest will win this game. And it'll come down to the 5 key plays in the game. And it's simply if Texas made 3 of them and Ohio State only made 2, or Ohio State only made 3 and Texas made 2. It's going to come down to a few plays and who are the guys going to make the plays. But with all that said, I do see Texas's defense making a bigger impact than Ohio State's defense. And that's why I do think Texas will get their revenge on Ohio State. And I think Texas money line would be my pick here if I had to bet it. But I think this is a strictly just watch the game and enjoy it. Don't have any money on it. But, excuse me, I do think Texas takes home this game. And the SEC finally gets their big win against a Big Ten school. Moving on to the next game of the week, I do have Clemson and LSU. LSU is going to Clemson, to make that clear. Clemson opens up as a -3.5 favorite, and LSU is +140. Another top 10 matchup. And this could be another game of the year candidate. To see another top 10 matchup this early in the season, we're basically just dropping into the college football playoffs this early again, which I love because you can see these matchups again in a couple months from now, which is always a good thing to have. Both teams have major ceilings and they have major national championship aspirations. Obviously, and like I've talked about for the SEC documentary, we already know how LSU feels about this season. Clemson Dab has already made it come out clear, and he says he wants to be the first ever 16-0 team in college football history, and he thinks they have the talent to do it. Tons of stuff here, and I'm actually a fan for it. Going into the positional breakdown, QB, I actually have a tie on this one. I do not see Cade and Nussmeier. I see them as equal. I really do. I think they're both top quarterbacks in college football. Both are going to be great players. Both guys that can sling the ball anywhere, do it on their feet everywhere. I do not think this deserves to go anyway, if I'm being honest. So I actually left that as a tie, which is really rare. You won't see me doing that, but I couldn't go one way. Running back, I give the edge to LSU. Wide receivers, another coin flip again because I have a lot of respect to Clemson's wide receivers, but I have to give it to LSU again. Tight end, LSU. O-line, Clemson. D-line, Clemson. In general, the D-ends and the defensive tackle. I think it's one of the best D-lines in the country. Linebackers, I do give a slight edge to LSU. Whit Weeks is a great player. He's going to be flying around the field. He's their green dot. He's going to be making great plays, and I think his brother's back healthy. So you're going to have both Weeks brothers out there playing. They're talented. They're talented brothers. They're going to make some plays. Corners, I also give it to LSU, and it's the same exact standpoint as I did have for Ohio State, Texas. Clemson has the best corner in this matchup in Terrell, but at the end of the day, LSU is the 2 and 3 best ones, and I think their overall stability in that, instead of depending on one guy to shut down a guy, they're going to take advantage of that other guy, and that's why I think corner is given to LSU. Safeties, I give to LSU. Special teams, I give to LSU. But coaching, I do give to Clemson, and I think this is no shocker because we'll talk about that in a little bit. But I give it to Dabo down there. That means it does finish up in favor 7-4 to LSU, but I think you should take that breakdown, even though I do give it to you guys, and take it with a grain of salt. Because these two teams are so close. It's in Clemson. There's so many positions that literally could just be one play away that even though they might not be the better position group, they still make the better play, and they end up being the better position group of that night. And you have to forget how terrible Brian Kelly is in week 1. I mean, it's almost like a curse for him. 2 years, the Florida State series alone with him at LSU was just mind-boggling the way he treated those. Obviously, last year against USC in Vegas, he just got dominated in the fourth quarter, blew a lead. USC runs it in with Woody Marks and scores with 5 seconds left, and there they go, blowing another one. And I don't see much changing this year, if I'm being honest. I mean, the narrative of the story will be it's at Memorial Stadium. It's in Clemson, and Memorial Stadium gets rocking for their night games. It's obviously a crazy atmosphere. Clemson is a hard place to play in general, let alone at night in a top 10 matchup. And I'm sorry, it's hard to put your faith in a coach that's been struggling in week 1 games and already has a big target on his back. So that's why I think I will be going Clemson all line minus the 2.5 here. And that is my pick. And I'm very high on this pick, but it's not a security lock. I do have a lot of faith in Dabo. Dabo's not the type of coach to be cocky when his team's not great, but when he's confident, he's going to let you know. And that's why I'm super excited for this matchup. Now, next, moving on to another game that I think deserves some showtime and talk about is a game that would be usually a game of the week, probably most years, would be Alabama and Florida State. So Alabama is going to Florida State. They are minus 13.5 favorite, and Florida State opens up at plus 400 dog. I feel like this game has a lot of eyes on it because it is two marquee blue bloods that they've been waiting for this matchup. I mean, obviously you make these matchups years in advance. Whenever they plan this game, years ago they were like, oh my gosh, I cannot wait till that day, and we're finally here. And now it's not as big as they thought, but still a great game to watch. Quarterback for Florida State is the Boston College transfer, Thomas Castellanos. He's been talking a lot of big game through media and talking about how he's ready to shock the world. And you should respect Florida State. I just hope he can not look like an idiot and back up his word and dominate the game. I mean, he was a great player at Boston College, but at the same time, he still did struggle at times. And he's a guy that likes to get done on his feet, but he is still a great player, and I think Alabama will have their hands full at times. I do have mixed emotions about this line because it almost feels too good to be true, if I'm being honest. It feels like a trap at minus 13.5. But at the end of the day, I'll be upfront and honest. I am 100% going to be falling for this trap if it's a trap. And I'm okay with saying that because that's my last security lock of the week. It is Bama minus 13.5. If it's a trap, so be it. I can never let a team that just came off such a terrible season with such high expectations flop, and you're telling me they're only a minus 13.5 point favorite to Alabama that just brought back a decent bit of talent, and they brought in their offensive coordinator that was paired with Kalen DeBoer at Washington when they went to their national championship. I'm ready for this one. I am. I think Bama will cover this right at minus 13.5 and will get home for us. With some slept-on games that you should watch for Saturday, one wouldn't say this one's so much slept on, but it's just a game that you should keep your eye on, but there's not a lot of excitement around it. And that is obviously Tennessee versus Syracuse. I mean, look, I understand both of these teams lost a lot of talent. Both of them are expected to have really regressing seasons and stuff, but it's still a fun matchup to watch. Tennessee, I'm excited to see how Heupel does with Aguilar at quarterback. The UCLA, well, App State transferred to UCLA, and then whenever Nico went to UCLA, he just took a spot at Tennessee. So I'm excited to see how he does, but I think Tennessee, they're high going offense. It's still an SEC defense. It's going to be stout. They do have one of the better cornerbacks in the SEC, McCoy. So I think Tennessee will win this game, and I actually am pretty confident in covering that minus 13.5 spread. It is not a security lock pick, but I am very high on that pick. Moving into the other slept-on game, quite literally, comes at our latest game of the whole night, standing at 11 p.m., and it's for all our late-night owls. Tune into the game, no other than Utah versus UCLA. Utah is minus 6.5, and UCLA opens up at a plus 175 underdog. Now, look, I feel like this game is going to be more entertaining than most of the games are going to be on during the day. It's going to be a fun one. This is Nico's first game at UCLA. Stars of Bruin. Utah, see if they can get back to the top where they belong, being one of the most dominant run games in the country. And look, I mean, what has me so jittery about this game, if I'm being honest, it's a night game that makes you miss those good old Pac-12 after hours games. Like after dark games used to be one of my favorite things to watch growing up. As I was a very big Oregon fan growing up, and obviously that switched. But I was an Oregon fan growing up, so I used to stay up and watch those games, try my best to watch them. But at the end of the day, it just makes you reminisce, and also makes you miss the Pac-12 because this would be a marquee matchup in the Pac-12. But I still think Utah minus 6.5 is the best bet here. It's one of my higher picks of the week, but I do feel confident with it. But it's once again not like a security lock level. But I do feel confident with this pick, and I do believe in this getting us home. So with that said, now I'm going to move into our underdog of the week. Look, I mean, you guys know how underdog of the week works. Underdog of the week obviously is a team that comes in with plus odds anytime at any point. So obviously the no-brainer here would be Texas at plus 110, but I think I want to dive in a little more and give you guys like a game we haven't talked about, and that's why I think the game here will be my underdog pick here is actually Cal plus 110 at Oregon State. I believe this is going to be my dog of the week here. If you look at it, Malik Murphy is a quarterback at Oregon State, and he does terrible against teams that send pressure, and that's all Cal does is send pressure. So I feel like Oregon State is going to lose this game here, and Cal's actually going to get a decent upset. I won't say big upset. Week 1, start the season off with that 5-star transfer that they're very high on that they got at Cal. I am shocked Devin Brown lost this QB battle at Cal, so that must say a lot about this 5-star that transferred from Oregon to Cal to get some playing time. Moving into our 2-game slate Monday. We're finally almost through it, but there's a lot of good games to talk, and I hope you guys are loving the information. And take it with a grain of salt, take it however you want. I just want to get this information, guys. I'm trying to help you guys out the most I can. If you guys also have any other questions, concerns, any other games, don't be hesitant. You guys can text me in the comments, email me, whatever. Just give me guys games. I'll give you guys honest reviews, but I want to make sure we go over all these as well. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, it is college football. Who doesn't love your Saturdays? I obviously know that you guys out there are very excited for me too, but I'd also like to know your guys' favorite games of the year too. I mean, it's always fun getting some reviews too. And with that said, we're moving into the other game of the week. No shocker here. It is Notre Dame versus Miami. Notre Dame opens up as a minus 2.5 point favorite, and Miami is plus 110. Obviously, I feel like this game will be nothing short of your normal Monday prime time, but except to choose the NFL. But I think this game will be better than a normal NFL prime time, in my opinion. Both teams have huge goals this year, major aspirations to win their conferences, in my opinion, because Notre Dame doesn't have to win a conference. So guess what? They get to just get to the playoff. That's their aspiration right there. Winning their conference is essentially making the college football playoff. So Miami, obviously, got Carson Beck as a transfer. So diving in, obviously, to the position breakdown, I do have the quarterback battle going to Carson Beck, more experience, even though C.J. Carr will be starting for Notre Dame. He is a very high sought-out recruit. I do think Carson Beck's still the guy to go with here. Running backs, I don't have to say much, not even close. Price and Love are going to carry this one for Notre Dame. Wide receivers, I still have Malachi Fields and I still have Greathouse. Like, they're great wide receivers. Notre Dame. Tight end, both average, but I'll get the Notre Dame. O-line, no shocker here, Notre Dame. D-line, defensive tackles, Miami. I feel as if they're going to probably try to do their best to stop them, but it will be hard. Linebackers, corners, and safeties, I all get the Notre Dame. And special teams, I only give the Miami, but coaching, once again, I give to Notre Dame. So that totals to 8-4 in favor of Notre Dame. And being fully transparent, I've been very back and forth about this game. Actually diving more and more into the game last night and just reading stuff and fully getting my take on it. I was very, very high on Miami throughout the week just because I feel like Florida humidity will play a factor in this, and Notre Dame is just a strong team coming off a very big season and an emotional season, which tends to sometimes drop off. But I just think Notre Dame's team will just be so strong up front, run the ball down their throat, and essentially control a game that Miami, I feel like, won't be ready for. And I've been so back and forth on this game all week, and I feel as if I still might post this, and I still might have some feeling switches. But I think the best play here is Notre Dame -2.5. I do feel confident locking that in right now and saying that. It's obviously not a security lock whatsoever because I've been flip-flopping. I've seen a lot of people high on Miami, but Notre Dame, just great coaching, which nothing taken away from Mario Cristobal down there in Miami. Great coach. And brought in a great defensive coordinator from Minnesota last year that gave a lot of people tons of problems. But I just feel like you can't bet against a running back too like that with a strong offensive line. But at the end of the day, if Miami does make Notre Dame throw the ball, I think Miami can win this game and put the game in CJ Carr's hand. But Notre Dame -2.5 would be my slight edge, but I'm not recommending that whatsoever. All right, hopping into our other Sunday game of the night, it obviously is no other than South Carolina at Virginia Tech. South Carolina does open up a 7.5-point favorite, and VT is +250 underdog. Obviously, this game is cool to watch because legendary coach of Virginia Tech, Frank Beamer, will watch his son, South Carolina Gamecocks, take on a school. And you know what? I think this is really cool. It's cool to see how football evolves in football-driven families, and it's very neat to see how Shane Beamer has turned this South Carolina program into one of the better ones in the SEC, or trying to at least. But at the end of the day, very talented South Carolina team. Lenore Sellers is probably one of the better quarterbacks in the SEC and trying to make a big candidate this year. Crazy with his legs, crazy arm, only a true sophomore. Guy's ready for a huge year. And I feel Brett Price sadly on his way out of Virginia Tech, and I feel like South Carolina will cover this game pretty safely with a safe spread of -6.5. I'll line it down from 7.5 to 6.5 just to be safe. But we also don't want to forget, these Hokies do live for primetime games. Night game in Lane Stadium, coming out to Enter Sandman is never an easy thing. Gets the crowd going. And if Virginia Tech jumps on them early, it could be an interesting task. That's why it is not a security lock. It scares me away a little bit. Drones is still a decent quarterback at Virginia Tech. So I think this game could go some ways, but at the end of the day, I do see a safe -6.5 South Carolina covering. Moving into our final game of week one, you could say, even though it is Monday of next week, is TCU at North Carolina. Obviously, TCU opens up at -3.5-point favorite, and North Carolina is +140 underdog. Obviously, this is Bill Belichick's season opener. I'm confident to see how Bill does with this team. He's obviously a well-known and highly sought-out coach. I mean, he's well-respected everywhere else, but he's well-respected in the NFL. Now, can he do the same thing down in college? College and NFL are two completely different stories. You're dealing with professionals up in the NFL and college athletes down in college. So, a little different coaching philosophies. Hoover and Sonny Dykes together at TCU are never an easy duo to go up against, especially for your first game. Hoover and Sonny are both very, very talented. Sonny Dykes with offensive play calls and being the head coach of TCU, and trusting a guy like Hoover. He has a beyond talented arm and can make a lot of plays across the field. It's never an easy task, in my opinion. I know a lot of people are leaning towards North Carolina. I've been seeing a lot of stuff, but I understand this is at North Carolina, and a lot of stuff can happen, and Belichick is trying to make a splash. I really would stay as far as possible from this game, in my opinion, but if I had to take one, I would go TCU -2.5 alt line. I feel like this is like my least favorite pick of the week, if I'm being honest. It's just a game that don't have any trust really in any team to like put something around because there's so much what ifs and maybes. So I'm just going to stay away from that one, and it's not on the security lock standpoint, but still a fun game to watch. So with all that said, obviously I have talked about all the college football games that I feel like that we should go over in week one. Obviously, as you guys can tell, I'm super excited for week one. I hope you guys out there are super excited for week one. Would love to hear from you guys to know what teams you're excited about, what teams you're not so excited about. Just overall teams you think are going to shock this week. Because it's week one at the end of the day. Things happen. There's a lot of football going on, and I'm just finally excited to say that we've made it. We are finally here. I got to talk about it. It starts tomorrow, and I'm just super ecstatic to get into it. I cannot wait to just watch these games, learn more about these players, learn information so I can relate to you guys and help you guys grow into the sport. If it's betting, if you just want to learn more, or if you just have a true love for the game like I do. And with all that said, I'm super thankful for everyone out there watching. I hope this helps you guys this weekend in any way whatsoever. And with all that said, thank you so much for watching today, and see you guys next week. Thank you.